بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وكفى والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. See a lot of old familiar faces here, many of whom I've had the opportunity to teach in high school, some in junior high as well. Some faces I haven't seen in years. Alhamdulillah, it's very good to see many of you. I was hoping to catch some of you last night at one of the khatams in the area, but I wasn't able to make it over to there in time. Everyone's tired. I understand that. So you have my permission in advance to leave if you're tired. I was asked to speak to those who will remain. So if you have to leave, don't consider it disrespectful or offensive. I myself am tired. I'll be stuttering and slurring through the entire talk, so it's okay. Last night when I was sitting after the Taraweeh prayer and listening to Mufti Minhajuddin speak about Surah Yusuf, there are a few thoughts that were running through my mind that I wanted to share with everyone. In Surah Yusuf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows a beautiful story of a young man who was tried and tested in ways that many of us have been or will be tried and tested. Yusuf alayhi salam was blessed with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to see a dream early in his life where he saw 11 stars and the sun and moon bow down to him. And when he saw this, he wasn't at that moment aware of what it meant. And as a result, Yusuf alayhi salam went to his father and explained the dream to him. And his father advised him, don't tell your dream to your brothers. Yusuf alayhi salam was young, so he unfortunately, or fortunately how you look at it, depending how you look at it, he did go and tell his brothers. His brothers were already pretty jealous of him. He's a very handsome individual. He was from the other wife of Yaqub alayhi salam, and he had the love of his mother, he had the love of his father, and he had a strong love from his father. And this drew a lot of the jealousies of his brothers, until his brothers decided one day that we have no opportunity to grow closer to our father if he's still here. We need to cut him out. If he leaves the picture, then we'll be able to function as a family unit. We can get rid of him. Once we get rid of him, then we can get things to be back to normal. So they had a meeting. The meeting was with only the brothers, excluding Benjamin. They sat, they spoke to each other, and decided, what should we do with Yusuf alayhi salam? Some said, uqtuluhu, you should kill him. You guys should go and kill him. The other suggestion was what? Take him and throw him away to a far land. And after this, you'll be spared of his presence. When you're spared of his presence, then you'll be able to have a family that's functional, that's enjoyable, and everyone will be happy. But the way they phrased this intention is very beautiful within Quran, and this is something that many of us often fall prey to. What did Yusuf alayhi salam's brother say? وَتَكُونُ مِن بَعْدِهِ قَوْمًا صَالِحِينَ. That after this occurs, after we do the treacherous act of killing our brother, or after we do the treacherous act of taking our brother and flinging him away in some far land, and separating him despite his young, tender age, and inability of taking care of himself, despite that, when we do then get rid of him, then what we can do is we can become pious. وَتَكُونُ مِن بَعْدِهِ قَوْمًا صَالِحِينَ. The one advising them said, after this you can all become pious people. Just right now, take that step. Right now, do what you need to do. Once you do what you need to do, even though it's wrong, even though it's sinful, even though it's not pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after this, everything will be okay. Now, what's interesting about this verse is this verse comes very early within the surah. Within less than 3 pages, this verse already comes up. Actually, less than 2 pages. This verse already comes up. Now, when this verse comes up, it establishes a theme that exists throughout the entire surah. And that is, there was a group of people within this story that thought to themselves that if we can just do what we need to do, even though it's wrong, if we can do it now, later it will bring us ease. And it sets the premise for another character in the story, Yusuf Audasaan, to also have the opportunity to do wrong. And he could potentially say, I will do the wrong right now, and later I will have my ease as well. And we see that one group chose one path and one group chose the other. There's a famous poet, Robert Frost. Some of you studied him in my class. He speaks about the 2 paths that diverge. And if you're familiar with this poem, what does he say at the end? He becomes grateful that he took the path that he chose. Why? Because life would not have been the same if he took the other path. Oftentimes we don't know how strong the influence and effect of one decision is upon our entire lives. We think it's only one decision, it won't make any difference. It actually makes quite a bit of a difference. One decision can take a person out of Islam. We know within hadith that a person will make a statement. That one statement he puts no emphasis on. It's just a word, qawlan. But that will throw him 70 depths into the hellfire. It's just one statement. What's the big deal? That person did not put much emphasis on it, but it ends up turning that person's life completely upside down. So now Yusuf Audassaan's brothers, they decide that we're going to do this. They take him. They make the excuse to their father, Yaqub alayhi salam, that we're going to go and play with our brother. You never let us go play with our brother. Let him come with us. Let him come with us. So Yaqub alayhi salam says no. They push and they persist, citing the fact that that he doesn't trust them. He finally relents. Go ahead, watch over him. What do? They carry out their plot. They take Yusuf alayhi salam. According to some mufassirun, they remove the garment of Yusuf alayhi salam without even shredding it. They take off his garment, they take him, they throw him into the well, and then they kill an animal, they put the blood of the animal over Yusuf alayhi salam's garment, and they take it back to their father, weeping, saying, what? The wolf came, it devoured our brother, and as a result, here's our proof, and we no longer have him with us here. And Yaqub alayhi salam is seeing the shirt of the child that was devoured completely intact with some blood on it. Just lending to the fact that they were lying about what happened. Now when they did this, they had a pure intention, after this will become better. But life doesn't work that way. No one can say, you know what, I'm just going to do this act and nothing will happen after it. Every act, we know through physics, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Something occurs, it causes something else. I can't punch you in the face and say, don't worry, nothing will happen. Something will happen. Either I'll break my hand, I'll break your nose, or at least our ties will break between one another. I can't go and eat something I'm allergic to and just say, oh, nothing will happen. Either I will die, or I will survive and become very grateful to Allah Ta'ala for saving me from my foolish thought. Something always happens. If I'm walking up the stairs, something happens. Everything, no matter what a person does, is always a result of their actions. And shaitan likes to make us think, if you do an action, it's not going to have any effect. It's not going to have any results. When we eat, what do we eventually have to do? Discard that food through another passage. That action of eating has a reaction. That action of eating, what does it do? It fuels us so we can do more works. That action of eating has a reaction. When we drive, what do? We leave a point and a destination, we come somewhere else. A point of origin, we come to a destination. That drive had a reaction. Everything we do has some results. The sin and the good deed of a person has a result as well. Thus, when Yusuf alayhi salam's brothers did what they did, and they thought there would be no repercussions, they saw that was not true. They saw that was not true. Their lives forever were turned. Their lives were forever turned upside down. How? They thought they can just get the love of their father now, and now what happens? Their father distrusts them more than ever before. To the extent that he will not even let them take Benjamin in the future. Their father begins to weep so much that the water could no longer flow. In the eyes, he loses vision. So now what they think is going to be a happy lifestyle ends up completely backfiring. Father no longer trusts them. Father goes blind. Now he's more dependent upon them than ever before in his increasing age. They're feeling guilt. That guilt leads to anger. They're responding with anger, not the happiness that they thought they would have. They're seeing Benjamin. Benjamin is showing some signs similar to Yusuf Audasaan salam. The family misses him. There's always something. They thought after this, everything's going to get better. Nothing got better. In fact, things got worse. And it didn't just get worse for a short period of time. It wasn't just, oh, you know what? It's a few days. It's a few weeks. We'll get over it. Years later, it's still in that same situation. Now, Yusuf Audasaan is the victim in the story. And what happens to him after he's thrown into a well? He's taken out and he's sold for a very small, insignificant amount. He goes into the house of the king. When he goes into the house of the king, the wife of the king, and there's a lot of discussion as to why this occurred, she saw him and she fell in love with him. He was a man of great beauty. When she falls in love with him, she decides, I need to do what I need to do right away. So she makes an entire intricate plan, and Mufti Ibn Hajjuddin was mentioning, وَغَلَّقَتِ الْأَبْوَابِ. She goes and he shuts 7 doors in such a way that her room is in complete privacy. And what does she say? Hey talak. She just says, let's do what we have to do right now. Now Yusuf Audasaan could have had the same reaction. After this, I'll be a pious person. Because this is the wife of the king. And the king doesn't go and say, who's the least attractive person in my kingdom? Let me marry her. The opposite occurs. Everyone wants the wealth of the king. Everyone wants the status of the king, i.e. in the position of the queen. Anyone's willing to marry him. I doubt that he had the most ugly person or unattractive person within the community. It's probably quite the opposite. Now she is coming onto Yusuf Audasaan, and she presents herself in such a way that they're in complete privacy and secrecy. And Yusuf Audasaan is a young man, and things have gone wrong in his life on the surface. So if anyone at this moment had to think to himself, after this I'll become a better person, it was Yusuf Audasaan. But he didn't. He did not say that. And we see the direct effect of this. And Allah Ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ حَمَّتْ بِهِ وَحَمَّ بِهَا لَوْلَا أَرَّآ بُرْحَانَ رَبِّي. That she desired him. And he would have had the same inclination had it not been for the clear manifest proof of his Lord, the burhan of his Lord. Some of the Mufassirun say that at that moment he saw the verse وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. Some of the Mufassirun say that at that moment Yaqub alayhi salam appeared in front of him and reached out and pointed to his chest or tapped his hand upon his chest. There's different interpretations of what it means. There's difference amongst the ulama regarding this. But he didn't say that. Now imagine if he said, you know what, after this I'll become a better person. Who was at the door? Who had access to the room? The husband. The actual king was there. And he actually, because Yusuf Audasaan was fleeing away from her and he was coming out the doors, we see all of a sudden the king is standing outside the outside gate or the outside door looking to make his way inside. If Yusuf Audasaan thought to himself, after this I would become a better person, what would have happened? His entire life would have been over. He would have been treacherous, treasonous, executed, game over. Every deed has an effect. This is why the Prophet ﷺ told us that we should follow a sin, أَتْبِعُ السَّيِّئَةَ الْحَسَنَةَ, with a good deed. And what will it do? تَمْحُهَا, it will erase it. Because when that sin is committed, it has an effect on someone. It has an effect on a person. When I commit a sin, when someone commits a sin, that sin causes a certain level of darkness, a certain level of dhulm, a certain lack of perception from the heart, and all of these things get so affected that my next steps are all negatively affected by that particular sin. Person comes home from work, he comes to speak to his wife, and they begin arguing, and he can't understand why. He can't understand why, when I was at work and I was having such good interactions with all the females at my work, why can't the woman I'm married to, why can't I have a good interaction with her? Yet he can't put two and two together and think it's because of those interactions I've been having that they're causing myself to have this fire within my household. Every sin, every action has an equal opposite reaction. And when it comes to a situation like this, no wife is going to say, Alhamdulillah, I'm happy you're speaking to other women at work, and it's not going to happen. Person goes onto the computer, begins to check certain websites, begins to look at things that he shouldn't be looking at. It's not going to be that he gets married and all of a sudden these problems are solved. I'm going to tell you guys very clearly right now, based upon a wide spectrum of people I've been able to survey who come to me with this issue. No one has ever, not one person has ever come and said, I've been battling this my whole life or my adolescent years. I got married. After I got married, I never came back to the computer to look at those things again. I have had women approach me and say, I've caught my husband looking at this. I checked his history and there it was. I've had that occur. I never had someone say, I got married, alhamdulillah, it was all taken care of. Marriage does not solve problems. I'm not saying it creates problems, but marriage does not solve problems. It's a means by which protection can occur. Don't think, and people often say, well, look, I did tawbah now. Why is Allah testing me? 20 years of a sin and the pleasure from that sin, all of a sudden Allah Ta'ala is not going to say, well, now you feel bad. Okay, everything's going to get better. Sometimes the effects of that sin will still be present. A person has to recognize every deed. Now we should also ask Allah Ta'ala to remove the effects of that sin. Every deed has an effect in the future. We should never think things exist in a vacuum. Yusuf Audasaan, he continues. And look how his life is. It wasn't because he did a good deed that everything went right. This is the next thing we learn in this surah. I'm not going to go through all the lessons. I want to talk about that one particular verse we're talking about. He did not assume that now that I put Allah Ta'ala first, that everything will come better. Because for the brothers, their thought was, I'm going to commit this sin now, and then afterwards I'll become better. We'll throw him far away or we'll kill him and we'll become better after that point. And it didn't occur. But let's say it did occur, for example. Their life just became better. And Yusuf Audasaan did not commit his sin and his life did not become better. This is often something people look at and they say, why is it that such and such person is living such an excellent life and that person is sinning? And I'm actually making the effort. And I'm facing even more difficulties. Our mashayikh mentioned that on one occasion there was an individual who was making dua, and he would make dua night after night after night for something that he sought. And it was never accepted. So someone came by and said, why do you make dua? Allah doesn't accept that dua from you. Why do you keep making it? So he stopped making that dua. He went to sleep. A caller called to him in the dream saying that, why did you stop making that dua? He said, it was never accepted from me. The caller, the voice then said, don't you know that was the answer for your dua? Meaning, the closest you're getting from Allah, you're standing in tahajjud, you're fasting to make extra dua, you're getting this connection, that is a greater reward than whatever you were asking for. It's a greater reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should not judge the book by its cover and say, that person does X, Y, and Z and is having a great lifestyle, I'm doing none of it and things are going wrong. We see the brothers of Yusuf Audasaan at the end of the day, by the fadl of Allah Ta'ala and His mercy, they were able to start over fresh after things were forgiven. But until then, they had a difficult time. Yusuf Audasaan, he chose the path of piety, the path of righteousness. Things got worse. He got tested another time. Not only by one woman, but the entire community of women began to say, if you don't do what she's asking, that you must do what she's asking. And they blamed him for being too beautiful. Then he said, just throw him into jail. Then he gets thrown into jail. He's in jail for a period of time. When he's in jail for a period of time, he interprets the dreams of those two individuals. One is executed. One begins to serve the king. He tells the person, remind the king about me. Make mention of the king of me to the king. That man forgets. The Quran says he forgot for a period of time. He remains in jail for a period of time. Some of the Mufassirun say he remained in jail for 12 more years. That was the small period of time he remained longer. Things do not become easier before they often get worse. What's the common thing after that one movie came out? Everyone says that the night only, something gets darker before the dawn. I don't know how that works. So whatever. It has to get dark before it gets better. It has to get dark before it gets better. That is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Which revelation began? Everyone said, you know what? Oh yeah, you are the Nabi. Let's all hold hands and pray together. Tell me which prophet. When did Musa a.s. receive a revelation and everyone ran together and said, you know what, he's right, let's all follow him? It never happened. When would Rasulullah ﷺ did a revelation come down, an entire group of Quraysh came and said, you know what, you're right, we're wrong. It never happened. Things got worse. A person gets put to the fire, gets tested. Then when that person goes beyond and passes that test, then things begin to get better. In this world, or as Abdurrahman bin Auf radiallahu anhu was mentioning about Hazrat Mus'ab bin Umair radiallahu anhu, it did not get better for him in this world, it only got better for him in the hereafter. And what more can a person want? So my advice to all of us today is we should not assume that one act or one sin is going to cut things off. And after this, I'll get better. I'll only talk to her once, it'll get better. I'll only, inhale or consume this thing once, it'll get better. It doesn't get better. One sin leads to the next. Every sin opens the door to the next sin. And every goodness opens the door to the next goodness. And that is a key thing that we see in the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, which when Mufti Manhajuddin was speaking, it came to my mind. So that's the general talk. I was told to do something general for everyone, then gear this now more specific to the youth. So that's the general portion. Part 2, the youth-specific portion. So anyone who's under the age of 100, this applies to you. There are 2 things I want you to leave Ramadan without, not with. The first thing is, in our modern context, because interaction with the opposite gender is so common. Now look, I'm going to sound extreme, and I'm going to tell you I am extreme in this point, and I have no problem with this. Certain things in this world, if you consume them in the proper time, they're very good for you. Who knows what nabidh is? What's nabidh? Anyone, nabidh? Yes, what's nabidh? It's a date drink. Yeah, you take water, you put into dates into the water, you refrigerate it, and you drink it. If you forget to drink nabidh, what happens? It ferments. It becomes alcohol. I didn't drink it, but after a few days I opened it, I'm like, well, it's not nabidh anymore. I had to discard of it. If you consume something at the wrong time, it's very harmful. It's very harmful. Medication expires, not a quick expiration, a long-term expiration. You consume it, probably harmful. If something is consumed before its proper time or after its proper time, it's harmful. Today, we live in a society where the consumption of the opposite gender, and nowadays the same gender, before its due time, now the same gender doesn't occur with this, but, and I'm going to tell you guys very openly, in this one statement, there are people here in this room who have inclination, I'm sure, towards the same gender. It's not haram. It's not haram to have the inclination. You're not supposed to act upon it. When I speak about these things, I don't mean to make light of your situation. I know it's difficult because I have a few students who've come to me and said, I do have attraction towards the same gender. And I can't understand how it's fair that at least those who are in high school and college who have attraction to the opposite gender, eventually they can get married, and I have to live my entire life with this test. It's difficult. I'm not doubting it's difficult. I'm not doubting it's difficult. The person in Syria who's sitting right now, having watched his child blow up in front of him, it's difficult. I'm not doubting it's difficult. The person who is in Somalia, who's walking with his baby in his hands, and is getting so weak that he cannot carry the baby anymore and leaves it on the ground and has to continue walking, hoping to find a UN food station, knowing that some animal devoured that child, it's difficult. The person who's a rape victim, maybe somewhere within Afghanistan, it's difficult. Life has tests. And for many of us, alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala did not put us through those tests. If you're undergoing this test right now, I'm going to agree with you, it's 100% difficult. I'm not going to hide behind that fact. But Jannah does not come easy. Am hasibatum an tadkhulul Jannah. Do you think you just enter into paradise? It's not that easy. And so a person might say, well, it's not fair. Allah gives everyone their specific test for a reason. I'm not saying you have to accept it. but at least understand it. And that's the case. When we say that we mourn the loss of those people who were killed in Orlando, we do, because they're human beings. They shouldn't have been killed. Because we're not the judge, we're not the jury, we're not the executioner. Some pastor now is speaking, saying something that, oh, he should have destroyed all of them. That's not our role. That's not our role. What if one of those people does tawbah and becomes a wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That's not our role. What is worse? I know, random side point. That's what they're doing, or trying to kill the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Obviously, the second one is much worse. What they're doing versus the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam being killed is much worse. I'm not saying that's not a sin. That is a sin. Imam Abu Hanif rahmatullah alayhi, what did he say? He said it's considered zina. It's considered zina. Just as you punish the zani, you punish this person the same way. Nothing else. No one's being thrown off a cliff. No buildings being dropped upon someone. Abu Hanif rahmatullah alayhi said it's zina. Because why? Intimate relationships occur in this framework. Anything outside of it is just zina. That's how we look at it. So the person who tries to kill the Prophet is much worse. Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu, Abu Sufyan radiallahu anhu, Hind radiallahu anha, Ikramah bin Abi Jahl radiallahu anhu, and all these people, that's what they were doing on a daily basis. And then Allah Ta'ala guided them to Islam, and they left that act, and what happened? They became the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. So rather than looking at people with disgust and making them feel, though they were born Muslim and grew up Muslim, that they cannot come into our masajid, let them pray. Let them fight that sin. Let them do tawbah and let them eventually lead it. If the people who try to kill the Prophet ﷺ can become the greatest of the awliya, the Sahaba, who are higher than any non-Sahabi wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then they too can do this. The same Lord who guided them can guide these people as well. We have such hatred as Muslims today. I know that's a side point. So coming back to what I was saying, that to consume something before its time is very harmful to a person. To consume a relationship, be it verbal, be it through our fingers, through whatever typing that's taking place, through vision, or through physical acts is very harmful. Why is it harmful? The reason why it's harmful is because interpersonal relationships are such that they're comparative. Look, how many of you have ever been on the blacktop or in gym class when they choose teams? How many of you have ever chosen last before? It's the worst feeling in the world. Why do they choose you last? Because you didn't pay them enough? No, because interpersonal relationships are all comparative. You see Saad, you choose him first. You see so-and-so, you choose him last. Why? Saad is better than so-and-so. Or vice versa. When I would play basketball at our high school, I was chosen last regularly. Save the best for last. When I played hockey in high school, I was always chosen first because I was one of the best hockey players in my high school. I was. In my junior high, I was. So it's all comparative. The same Saad got chosen in one winter sport first, in one winter sport last. That's just how things work. They're always comparative. If we're having constant interactions, now this is for the youth, visually, on the computer, on the iPad, through our conversations, etc., and also in person, and for the adults as well, because we interact with the opposite gender and other people on a daily basis, and we begin to see something that is beautiful and attractive, then we desire that. Whatever level of interaction we have, whatever level of consumption that we have, we enjoy it. Then what happens, that haram enjoyment is always more enjoyable because shaitan puts a certain level of happiness in there. Because you ever think, why is so-and-so actress and actor living together for 10 years, no problems. Then they officially get married, within a year they get divorced. 10 years together, no problems. 1 year of marriage, they're divorced. Why? Because even within the Sharia of the other ummah and the other adyan, the other religions, that's permissible relationship now that they're married. So what does shaitan do? Now they're eating something that's actually permissible, let me break it apart. When they're living 10 years together, it's sinful. Let me let them stay together because this is a bad thing, something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hates. So any interaction that we have, any consumption prior to its proper time is going to be harmful for the body. Consumption of the opposite gender prior to its proper time is going to be destructive to the soul. It's like consuming that nabidh when it's no longer ready. You had the time to consume it, you didn't do it, now you're trying to take it in, it's problematic. It's like taking ingredients before they're put together properly and trying to consume it. It can hurt the body sometimes more than help it because it hasn't meshed together properly. Every eyesight, every look, every glance, every conversation has a certain level of poison. Why? Because we get these phone calls and these emails saying, I no longer love my wife. Why am I bringing this up? We had 3 divorce cases this week, 4 based upon one that we spoke to last night. 4 divorce cases this week. And what are the parents saying? The parents are saying, oh, it's okay. Because this one last night had involved the police. Some of the brothers saw me. I was downstairs. I said I have to go upstairs to take a phone call because the police called. It was in Milwaukee, and I had to come upstairs to take that phone call. And this divorce case, they say, oh, it's okay. We'll be able to make do. Now, I'm not going to say why the reason that divorce is taking place or whatever the case may be, but what happens is people interact with these things on the screen. Actresses and actors who are getting paid to do despicable things. Then they get married and they wonder, why isn't this righteous, pious Muslimah doing what these actors and actresses do? Because she has haya and shame. And just because you have exposed yourself to something that in the past was so embarrassing, you cannot have some store across the street from the masjid selling that type of material. Just because we live in the day and age where now you can view it openly without it being illegal, doesn't mean it's acceptable. And our youth are viewing it on a daily basis. I've been in i'tikaf when young 12-year-olds are watching these things on their smartphones. Parents, how many of you are parents here? How many of you want to see your children go to Jannah? All of us. Take away their smartphone. Take away their smartphone. You don't need it. You don't need it. And some of you guys are older. I understand now you're older. You make your own decisions. But, there's 10-year-olds who come to maktab with their smartphones. It's as if a parent gave the child a loaded gun and said, here's a gift for you. Eid Mubarak. Actually, a loaded gun is better because the worst comes to worst, they'll die. But when they look at those things on that screen, their soul is dying and their body is living. And when the soul dies and the body lives, just sins get accumulated. It's much worse. So we have to control this interaction. Yusuf alayhi salam, when he was tempted in a way that none of us here have been tempted. The most beautiful woman took him into the room in close quarters and gave herself to him. That does not occur to the average person. But it does occur to some people. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He recognizes that I know that's a difficult situation, especially in today's hookup society where you can get with anyone anytime you want. I know it's a difficult situation because temporary and quick enjoyment is something everyone loves. So what will I do for you? I will give you the shade of my throne for saying what? Ma'adallah, I fear Allah. Some youth come to me and they say, Brother Saad, you don't understand. Life is difficult now. And I look at them and I say, life is difficult, but the fact that you get propositioned through various means on a regular basis just means you can earn Allah Ta'ala's shade in a way that I can never earn Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala's shade. You have to stay away from these things. Marriages are falling apart. I get wives who come to me and they say things like, my husband thinks I am not a kind enough person. And he's comparing me to so-and-so. He watches movies. My hair is not blonde enough for him. Of course it's not. She's from Hyderabad. It's not going to be blonde. It's not. But it's not blonde. Look, because they ask, can you color your hair? Then what do you have to do? Wear color contacts. So she gets the fatwa, wear color contacts. So now you have this blonde hair with the blue hazel eyes and brown skin. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. But the reason we laugh, because we know it's true, that it doesn't work. People ask these things. Why is the comparison being made? Because he's been watching things, even if we say it's not complete pornographic, but he has these images, these ideals of what is beautiful, and he can't get that at home because she's an average person. Oh, but so-and-so actress, she had 4 kids and she's in great shape. Well, go ahead. You earn $3 million. Hire a babysitter to take care of your kids. Hire a personal trainer to take care of her. Hire a cook to cook only healthy food. She'll look beautiful as well. But if you can't do that, shut your mouth. Because we can't do that. And then the people, sometimes you see these husbands who are asking for this. SubhanAllah, he can't even see his toes anymore. And he's asking for this. But why is he asking? He's asking because he's been fed. He's consumed things when he shouldn't have consumed them. It's poison. It is so poisonous. Some of you have had relationships in this room. I know because some of you have spoken to you about it. I don't want to ask in public, but I'm wondering, have you felt the ill effects of it now? I have sisters who come to me, not recently, in the past, who asked about the fatwa of reestablishing their virginity through that surgery because of the fact they don't want to be exposed on their wedding night. SubhanAllah, why go through that difficulty in the first place? No one said this dunya is about enjoyment. This is Darul Bala. The hereafter is Darul Jaza. So separate, control your eyes. Control your eyes. Alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala gave me glasses. When I walk outside in public, I take it off. I do, because now I can't see who's attractive. What happens, we're driving in the car, we have to be careful. Allah Ta'ala says, يَغُضُّ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ, lower your gaze. Not see something wrong and then turn it away. So we're driving the car and we get to a stoplight, we see someone next to us, we look. Drive to the next light, look. Now the next light. Now shaitan puts that one person next to us. The next 5 lights are all red, we keep looking, we keep looking. That will forever pollute the heart, it'll pollute the prayer. It destroys the prayer. When people say, I don't taste anything in my prayer, tell me, anyone, the hadith that says for the halawa, the sweetness of iman, what do you have to give up? What do you have to control? Your eyes. Look, let me put it in a simple way for myself, because I'm a simple person. There's certain things that are pretty much impossible in this world. One of them is that children speak, meaning babies speak. In our history, babies have spoken. What's one example when a baby spoke? Yusuf Audasaan. What's another example? Isa Audasaan. What's another example? Jurayj. Let's take those 3 examples. Yusuf Audasaan, when did the baby speak? When he was being charged or accused of being unchaste, that he was going to violate the rights of another woman. Isa Audasaan, when did he speak? When his mother was being charged with being unchaste. Jurayj radiallahu anhu, when did the baby speak? To defend him against the prostitute who said that he did something with her which he didn't do. In our human history, babies spoke. The impossible occurred. Allah had the impossible occur to show the world that I am so serious about preserving the chastity of my servants, I will even have the baby speak to defend that person. SubhanAllah, look at that. A baby speaks. It's not because, he didn't drink, or he didn't do this or that. He or she preserved their chastity. This is a big deal. This is a big deal. It's not some small thing. It's not some small thing. And we take it being small and we assume life will be okay. Life will not be okay. Yes, in the short term, things might seem like they're working out. Wait a few years, see what happens. Wait a few years, see what happens. Control these eyes. These are windows into the heart. Whatever you see from here, it comes into the heart. Then we're standing, we're praying, and we're thinking, astaghfirullah, I'm seeing pornography in my mind while I'm praying. Of course I am. Why? I saw it with my eyes. The heart, I press save with my heart. وَمَا تُخْفِ الصُّدُورِ. It's now saved in the heart. It's a compressed file now. And when does it come out? When I'm not focused on anything except what I should be focused on, which is Allah. And rather than thinking of Allah, all these files open up. It's disturbing. So the first thing is guard the eyes. Saad, myself first and foremost, guard your eyes. Guard your eyes, Saad. Guard your eyes. And when you guard your eyes, you will guard your chastity. If there's an attractive woman in the parking lot right now, will I be attracted to her? No, why not? I don't see her. If she's not there, I won't have any feelings towards her. Guard the eyes and everything will follow. Take your smartphone, put it away. If you don't need it, put it away. If you need it, go ahead. Look, I'm the imam of a masjid right now. I have a lot of people's things to do. And I carry, I don't know, where's my phone? I carry this around. This is the latest, my phone, right? This is all it is. And people say, you know what, you're living in the past. Yes, I'm living in the past. Because the past was closer to the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Hakim Tirmidhi rahmatullahi alayh, not Imam Tirmidhi, he was a Hakim of the past. He was once sitting at home and he was thinking to himself about his life. He was a very handsome man. He was a very pious man. And when he was thinking about his life, he was in his old age, he remembered a time that a very beautiful woman came to him. And when she came to him, she gave herself to him. And he turned away from her. When he turned away from her, he continued his life. In his old age, he began to think to himself, if only then I did what I could have done. I could have done tawbah later. وَتَكُونُ مِن بَعْدِهِ قَوْمًا صَالِحِينَ. I could have done tawbah later. And then when he thought that, he began to cry. He began to cry so much that he fell unconscious. In his unconsciousness, he saw the Prophet. The Prophet asked him, why are you crying? He said, O Messenger of Allah, I was so much more pious when I was younger, when I had urges. And now that I'm decrepit, I'm thinking about that opportunity when I could have done wrong. I've become so much of a worse person. What did the Prophet say? He said, do not be upset. That time when you were younger, you were that much closer to my time. That time was more pious. It's hard moving forward. We're distancing ourselves from the Prophet. If you don't need a smartphone, don't use it. It's like carrying shaitan in your pocket. He's going to whisper. I need my scheduler. Take out a schedule planning book. I carry one. It's not that difficult. Do you look old school? Yes, you do look old school. Who cares? So take that and just get rid of it if you can. And take your computer and get rid of it if you can. Meaning what? Get a desktop, put it in the kitchen so your mom can see what you're working on, your dad can see. Because the sociologists, non-Muslims say what? Best place for the house to have a computer? In the kitchen. And what? There should be no laptop in the rooms of children or youth. Why? Because it's easy access to what shaitan has to offer. I'm not blaming any of you. I'm saying because I live with you in the same society and shaitan tests me out how he tests you, I understand. And because I understand, I'm offering you this advice. لا تقربوا الزنا. Don't come close to it. Do not come close to it. Do not come close to it. One of our, there's one of my teachers, when he moved to, when he first moved to America, it's very interesting. He was working in a hotel. And when he was working in a hotel, he's a handsome individual. And a woman was in the room when he went to the room to change some of the linens, and a woman was in the room, who came in the room, and she closed the door. And what did he do? He jumped out the window. He broke his leg to save himself from zina. Was it Moulana Qasim Nanawti rahmatullahi? One of our akabir from Deoband, I forgot, Moulana Naeem rahmatullahi was telling us about this story. That he was walking home. Faraz, who was the person? Do you remember? He was walking home from, and that woman said, the person in our house is sick. Do you remember who that was? Who was it? Shah Abdul Aziz's student? So I don't remember the person's name, but he was walking home from school. It was that far back? You sure? Okay. To check on that, but your memory is better than mine. So he was walking home from, walking towards madrasa, and a woman would always see him. So what did she do? One day she sent one of her servants and said, tell him that there's someone sick in the house. You have to help this person. So as he was going, he said, come quick. Someone at home is sick. You need to read dua over this person. He came over. When he came over, the servant closed the door. She left. The woman then came out and said, every day I see you walk to the masjid, to the madrasa. And right now, I can't control myself. I need to have you at this moment. So either you do what I say, or I'm going to yell to the public that you're trying to rape me. That is in a very bad situation. Because he's thinking to himself that if I don't do what she's saying, my reputation is gone. If I do what she's saying, my akhirah is gone. So he's thinking, what am I going to do? What should I do? She says, fine, you win. I have no way out. So he goes, he's like, let me just use the restroom first. He said, fine, use the restroom. He goes to the restroom, he defecates. He takes the feces, he smears it all over his body. He walks out and says, fine, you can take me now. She becomes very disgusted. I didn't know you were like this. Get out of my house. And he leaves. He goes and he bathes as much as he can, and he comes back goes to class. His Shaykh al-Hadith had a very sensitive nose to itar. Smells would often cause him to have very bad headaches. So he comes to class, and he's sitting, and the Shaykh al-Hadith, who put on that odor? And now he's getting very embarrassed. And then the class is continuing. And he says, who put on that odor? It's so strong. And he's getting more embarrassed. Finally, he says, who was so disrespectful that's putting on this odor that's causing me to be distracted in class? He just begins to cry. So the teacher doesn't know what's going on. And when the teacher was saying, he was saying, who put on that very fragrant odor? So that everyone was starting to laugh because it's like sarcasm almost. It sounded like sarcasm. So the student begins to cry, and the teacher calls him up. He says, why are you crying? And he says that, he tells him the whole story. And the teacher turns to him and says, look, when I said who put on that fragrant odor, I was being serious. I don't smell anything bad. I smell a very beautiful fragrance. Look how Allah Ta'ala changes things. If we protect ourselves, and our children protect themselves, and their children protect ourselves, based upon the example that we set, we will have a society that's preserved. If not, things are going bad, and they're going south quick. And we don't want that for ourselves or our children. Now I've covered the topic for the youth as well, so now I'm done. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. How are you doing? Good to see you. Yeah, I saw you that you registered. Alhamdulillah, that's good. What have you come for? So you in England now? You flew back just for this? Oh, you done? I know, but I thought you were going back.
No, there's a possibility this week I might have the presentation.
Oh, a presentation.